Feeling women, like the way, like I never wanted to hold hands with a girl. If I, if I had the choice, I'd rather hold hands with a brother. Like it was very much, it was.
When you dance, it's not called cross dressing. It's called
Gender performance.
Gender performance.
Yeah. My makeup's better than your girl's, but my beard's thicker than your man's.
So we're here with Raheem. How are you?
Fine, thank you. How are you?
Oh, I've never had that turned around on me. Yeah, I'm good. Just chilling.
That's a shame that your guests don't care.
No, they don't. They're just like, let me plug my shit and get out of it.
Yeah.
So thank you for asking.
I'm that type of guy.
You are that type of guy.
Very considerate.
So let's just take you over for people that aren't familiar with your work. What do you do?
I dance. I act. I basket weave. I'm a magician. No, I mainly dance. That's my thing. So I've been doing that for years now. I'm performing as an artist. And yeah, I started off in like a Western style. So I did a lot of like ballet. I did a lot of contemporary, and then found classical Indian dance, which is a thing for me. So that was really exciting. And yeah, I've been doing that since I was, like 16, 17, seriously.
Nice.
And yeah, then just decided to develop it over and over again.
And I don't mean to drop you in it now.
Tell me everything.
But we're about 37 seconds in, and if you haven't realised, you're a fucking idiot. You're gay. Yeah? Is this a shock?
I thought I was passing. It's true. It's true. I am also gay.
Yeah, I mean,
it helps when you're a dancer, because people like you and trust you more. And also, a lot of people get changed in front of you, so that's not a bad thing.
What came first, the
gay or the dance? One of life's many questions. I think my ability to dance actually probably came first, and then I just did that pirouette, and there she was. So yeah, I think dance was the first thing that I recognized within myself. I think my sexuality was never a thing until I started to get called gay. That's when I was like, oh, am I? Oh, okay.
No way.
Yeah, it wasn't a thing for me. I just thought it was, for quote unquote, normal. I thought all of the feelings that I was feeling, everybody else was feeling. And it's true. It's just that a lot of the women were feeling the same way that I was feeling, and I didn't realize that. But yeah, no, I didn't think sexuality was a thing until people started to use it as a slur. That's when I was like, oh, okay. And then my mother and father would speak to me about it, and they'd say, look, it's going to be a bit tricky for you because you're, a certain way, and other people might not see it like that, blah, blah, blah. And yeah, I actually couldn't say the word gay until I was 18.
Shit.
Fun fact, if I'm ever in a pub trivia quiz. Yeah, I couldn't. I went through this phase where I was like, I'm bi. Because I thought it was more accepted that I would potentially have sex with a woman. And then I remember being at university, actually, going to my accommodation, and I met, as I did many a time at university, a drunk girl and a drunk boy, and they were like stumbling through, and they were like helping her up the stairs, and I was like, oh God, are you okay? And spoke like that, and she went, what? And then she went, oh, I like you because you're gay, right? And I went, yeah. And that was actually the first time that I'd openly admitted it.
There's wisdom in drunk girls, man.
There is.
She identified it straight away. She was like, oh, this guy's not being a creep gay.
Yeah, she was like, wait, he doesn't fancy me? Must be a homosexual. Yeah, she was very confident. Never saw her again.
No?
No, I don't know.
If she's watching now, get in touch.
Thank you so much for allowing me to open the closet doors. Yeah. I mean, I was never closeted. But yeah, I think I didn't identify as anything until that was kind of like a defining moment for me.
Did you know yourself then that you weren't actually bi, you were actually
gay?
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah. I had no interest in women.
When did you realise? How old were you?
How old was I when I knew I fancied men?
Yeah.
Like in primary school.
Oh, shit.
I was super young. Yeah, trust. I was like, I never ever saw the appeal in women. Like the way, like I never wanted to hold hands with a girl. If I had the choice, I'd rather hold hands with a brother. Like it was very much that sort of way. And like I used to just find female company a lot more like comfortable, and that was just the way that I felt. I don't know if it's because I came from such a heavy female, like, familial background.
Yeah.
But I just felt like I got women more than I got guys.
That kind of makes sense, I think. I think dudes, like, even I find hanging out with dudes a bit tedious.
Yeah, because sometimes it's just hella boring. And I had, like, no interest in anything that they were talking about. But I still played sport. So that's the only time I'd ever really speak to them.
What sports did you play?
Oh, God. I played football.
Oh,
I know.
amazing.
Everyone at home's like, shit. Yeah, I played football. I played hockey. And then I got into the gay sports like tennis. Volleyball was a personal favorite of mine. And then I got into and then badminton, which I took hella seriously.
Hey man, hey, badminton's not gay.
Badminton's not a gay sport.
No, it's
it
not.
just sounds gay.
It is very gay. There's like
It's
shuttle.
a gay word.
Chase the cock.
Yeah, exactly. You're hitting a shuttlecock between four men. I mean, I've Googled that many a time.
I've seen it.
Yeah. It's actually on my favorites. But yeah, no, so that was the only real time that I spoke to them, I guess, and occasionally in like classes, but socially I never was really around guys very often until I actually got to university. That's when I actually started to hang out with guys more.
Well, we actually went to the same university.
We did go to the same university.
That must be... So we were actively like we were on a gay hunt, right? I was about 3 seconds away. If I couldn't find somebody LGBT to come onto the podcast like organically, I was going to jump onto Grindr. I didn't care. We were going to go to gay events and everything.
Yeah.
And then that's when you popped into my head.
Yeah.
And we'd never actually spoken or anything, but I was like,
no, you hated me at uni.
I didn't. Whoa! Let's relax. Right, I didn't hate you specifically, but I would say, and I'm going to out myself here, I do think I was a homophobe.
Yeah.
Like, definitely. Because the more you get exposed to it, I think the older you get, the more you get exposed to different lifestyles and stuff, I think the more accepting you naturally become.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think I didn't know anybody gay, especially South Asian, at all until probably a few years after uni.
Yeah.
And then you kind of understand, like, oh shit, wait, if it's hard, like, for me to be like a bicultural, like, dude growing up in this fucking Western world with two cultures not really fitting in either way.
Yeah.
What's that got to be like?
Yeah, it's not great really, because you're already trying to navigate your way in somebody else's world just because of like the color of your skin or like where you're from or the languages that you speak or the food that you eat and so on and so forth. I mean, we've all been there. But then on top of that, then now also balancing your sexuality is like just going to be a whole nother thing. And it was just not a great time.
Did you find it harder, like, in your family or like from the outside people, like in your social circles or even further out from there?
I think I found it difficult just with the outside world. I mean, with my family, I hadn't changed. Like, Rahim was Rahim, do you know what I mean, at every event, and everyone still treated me the same, and it was never something that was brought into the space or to an equation. It was outside people and other people that I would, like, just sitting on the tube, for example, or sitting on a bus or walking into town or doing anything like that, that I would be like, oh, somebody's watching me. And like, I would see people look at me and I wouldn't know for why they were doing it, but they were. And I think that's when I started to find it more difficult. And that's when you kind of, every person that's like felt different within like the LGBT community, including all the other letters that I probably haven't mentioned, we've all tried to blend in, because some days you just have a day where you're just like, I really cannot be bothered for anybody to like say anything or look at me differently or not sit next to me, or do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it just got to a point where it was like, whatever. It didn't help that I've got a gay face.
It's not so much the face, it's more the voice. It's
yeah,
definitely a gay voice.
I know, but I'm either like really well spoken or just like gay. So everyone's like, oh, he's had a really good upbringing, or he just likes men. It's never both, which I find very offensive.
No, I'm kind of with you, and it's usually the posh ones that are gay. So.
Yeah, well, you're welcome. Yeah.
See, the homophobia hasn't left completely.
No, I mean, I've got plenty of crap shit to say about gays.
How do you get on with the other letters of the spectrum, like lesbians and trans people?
Yeah, I think they're great.
Is there any like gang beef or?
No, but I was having this discussion yesterday with two gay men, and it's funny because we all agreed that we think of the LGBT community as like the Hunger Games. Now stay with me here, because every district is like a different letter.
Right.
And like, so like District 12 is like the gays or whatever, District 11 is like lesbians. And like you only, like there's definitive boundaries between all of the letters. And we only sort of ever get together in like queer spaces, and I guess that would be the capital. So then you're looking at like, I don't know, like Pride and that sort of like nonsense that, you know, that goes around and says that they represent everyone, but they don't. But let's not get into that. But like, and it's just, but I don't have a problem. I don't have an issue with any of them. I think some of their stories are incredibly interesting, and especially at the moment with like the trans movement and trans rights, like it's such an important thing that we need to be discussing and we need to be supporting. Yeah.
I don't know, yeah, I fully agree with you. But then I sometimes, so what I think I was getting at was, I sometimes get a little bit annoyed at white feminists.
Okay.
Because technically, I guess we're both in a marginal group.
Mm-hmm.
But then I actually went on a date with a white feminist. I think you guys know this. But I went on a date with like somebody who was like an uber white feminist, but like proper middle class, like privileged.
Okay.
And she actually said the sentence to me, "You just don't know what it's like to be judged on your appearance constantly."
Okay, so she's obviously an idiot.
And that's when I decided. I was like, slow your roll, bitch.
Yeah, like you need to recognize who you're actually talking to. Like,
I was like,
this.
in the minority Olympics, like we're still above you.
Yeah, very much so. We still get the gold.
Yeah.
Yeah. She has white privilege, so she can relax herself really fast.
Do you know, and I have a theory about this. I think in the next generation, brown privilege is going to be a thing.
I think it already is a thing.
100%. Because I look at my nephew, right? And this dude's middle class as fuck. He's also brown. And he's got that diversity card that he's going to use like when he's like 18 to get pussy. And it's like...
Or dick.
All cock. Yeah. I mean,
depends on what happens.
I know, I'm pretty sure he's going to be like...
He's a bit of a lad.
Yeah,
how old is he?
4.
Brilliant, everyone. There you go. Yeah, it could be, or you might have an amazing experience at high school and think, "Oh shit, maybe I want everyone."
Yeah, geez, this took a really weird turn, innit? My sister watches these. She's gonna be.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, Didi. I apologize.
But going back to your experience, so did you experience like bullying and shit at school?
Yeah, obviously. With this voice. I did. I experienced bullying. I experienced a lot of people saying nasty things to me. But what was interesting was that I knew all of the popular girls. And this is like a serious thing. Because for some reason, if you're in with the popular girls, you're untouchable. Because all the guys that would like initiate the bullying all fancied my friends. So I had this like protective feminine layer, kind of like a human, but kind of like a human pad, you know. And they were like trying to penetrate, and they were like, "No, leave Raheem alone." And they like had to be nice to me in order to like speak to the girls. But I mean, that's when I first heard the word gay and like batty man and all of that shenanigan. And that's when I was like, I don't understand why people have such an issue with it. And then that's when I just used to like keep it like hella low and just like not talk to anyone or like try and not like attract attention to myself. But yeah, I got bullied there. I don't think I got bullied during high school. I used to get catcalled in both ways, which was really weird and kind of like breaks down your self-esteem, but also like builds it. So it was really, really odd.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, so like I used to get like things. Occasionally, people used to say things at me, like as I would like walk past or like whatever. And I used to just be like, "Oh, really? Are we still doing that?" Like, okay. But then there were like moments. So I decided to grow my hair.
Yeah.
It was a lot longer than this at university in my final year, and then and I remember getting confused for a girl all the time.
Well, there's a couple of videos on your Instagram.
Oh, I'm gorgeous. Yeah.
Hey, man, if I saw you from behind, I would be like, ooh.
Amen. I make a very convincing woman. I do squat. I make a very convincing woman.
Yeah.
High key. Like, and I think that also was something that was really, really interesting to explore, which is like hyper femininity, which was something that I kind of like suppressed, but then it kind of just erupted in glitter.
Because when you dance, it's not called cross-dressing, it's called
Gender performance.
gender performance.
Yeah.
And what is gender performance?
So for me, like I took the idea of the representations of gender that we have within dance and decided to personify those representations, so to add another layer to it. So I'm a Kathak dancer, which is one of the classical Indian dance forms, and in that you have to constantly change who you are, where you are. For example, like you could be telling a tale of Krishna and Radha, and so you're the male counterpart, which is Krishna, obviously, and then Radha there's female. But like for like 8 to 10 counts, you could be a man. Then all of a sudden, in like the next Avartan, you're going to be a woman. Like, so that fluidity was very interesting to me. When I decided to sort of like explore that idea of it, like gender performance, was actually at university, where I was like, it's so interesting because I have learned with women, but I also move very feminine in the way that I danced.
Yeah.
And I think for me, it was more of a performative thing as opposed to me, well, the term sort of like cross-dressing or becoming a drag queen or anything like that. Like, I don't consider myself a drag queen in the slightest, although I am hilarious on a microphone. But I think that's what drag queens are. Like, they like come forth, they look amazing in whatever manner they present themselves in.
Yeah.
You know, they lip sync to a song or they sing and they perform and they do like cabaret acts and they like, you know, do things like that. I've only recently started to do that, but I still don't consider myself like a drag queen. I think that's why I use the term gender performance, because you're performing as another gender, but for different things and different reasons. Yeah.
Rather than identity reasons, I guess.
Yeah, or like, yeah, but I mean, it's still got the same political like level to it, which I mean, I've proved whenever I've like done a performance as a woman in front of like a South Asian dance crowd, and they're all like, "Oh, okay, that's really interesting."
I always think like attitudes towards this stuff. It's always interesting to consider like the attitudes here in the West,
Yeah,
versus the attitudes over back in India and stuff.
yeah,
Because when I went to India a few years ago, I was surprised at the level of like acceptance. And it is a case of where, like, you know, at weddings and stuff, you will have
the Hijra community come
Yes.
in, but I don't know if that's acceptance in the sense that it's okay, or like we welcome that into the community. The Hijra community are regarded as this ethereal third, fourth gender,
Right.
where they have these abilities that they can either bless you or curse you, which is why a lot of them,
Oh shit.
yeah, which is why a lot of them are invited to things like the birth of a new child, weddings, celebrating things like that, because they believe it's a blessing from another entity, right? So that's what it really boils down to. So if you bring hijras to an event, then whatever the event is, or whatever, like say for example it's for a child, that child will now be protected by the hijra community. Which is why a lot of them, you'll see them on the streets and stuff asking for money and singing things and saying nice things to you, because they expect that in return.
Right.
It's like a gypsy curse, right? Like those were a thing. It's exactly the same principle.
That's so weird, because they're like elevated to like a higher platform, but then at the same time, it's kind of like a weird form of discrimination.
Yeah. So like they've got the blend of both male and female, creating this like transgender, third gender, higher level.
Right.
And that's how people view them. But if you were to come out as trans to your family, it'd be obviously a very different thing.
Yeah. I mean, we could have beard wars. Who has a better beard?
It's true. I mean, that's why I always say my makeup's better than your girl's, but my beard's thicker than your man's.
That's absolutely incredible. I think that's a T-shirt there.
I know, merch soon drop, guys. But yeah, it's because when I started the gender performance, I always was like clean shaven, and because I wanted that hyper feminine look, it wasn't until probably a few years ago that I performed with like a little bit of stubble, but then like exaggerated eye makeup and things like that. And I was like, actually, this is a lot more interesting, because there are so many queens out there, especially in the South Asian community, that will perform looking like a woman, which is absolutely fine. That's what works. But then it's also really interesting to see that you can be still very hyper feminine. Like no one can touch me when it comes to like my movement and stuff like that, because I will, you know, give you everything that you wanted, but at the same time I'll have like a really thick beard. And I was like, because that's also who I am. So you can't like deny me of my identity, right?
Yeah, I was just about to say, so I guess you're challenging in like on all platforms, I guess, like with the notion of, I guess, gender in itself, like mixing the two, so you're not one way or the other, but then you're also fucking slaying.
Yeah, it's like, it's androgyny, I think, is so much more interesting sometimes, especially with crowds of people and crowds of like South Asian like parents. Like I've performed in like a sequin skirt and like a crop top and stuff in front of mums, dads, aunties, and all of that, having a beard, doing like a semi-classical piece, and then coming out and hosting a show. And like the audience is with me. Do you know what I mean? And that's what I think is so interesting, because you can present yourself in whatever way you feel. Like you could host a show and everyone will immediately be like, yeah, this guy's like a Sikh Punjabi comedian. We can tell the beard, or if you, I don't know if you're a pug or whatever, like, do you know what I mean? Like you've got that identity, so people immediately see it. When people immediately will see me on stage, they'll be like, oh, we don't know about this because, you know, he's obviously gay and all of this business, blah, blah, blah. But then as soon as I've got that microphone and I'm wearing like heels and a high-waisted trouser, everyone sees that and goes, oh, but then I'll start on the microphone and they'll go, oh, no, actually did it. And it's like so interesting that you can immediately switch like somebody's perception just by like your personality. Do you know
you can
what I mean?
melt all of that away. The prejudging, everything's just gone.
But then it you know, it brings that statement in, well, that's okay because it's not in my home. But then what would you do if that was your son or daughter on stage deciding to completely gender bend in front of, you know, 1,000 Asians?
Yeah.
I mean,
what do you think are the attitudes in the South Asian community then? Because obviously I've got my views of what that is, but obviously being as somebody who's living that lifestyle, what do you think are the prevailing views?
I think that for us as the South Asian contingency, I don't think it's changed a huge amount, but I do feel like it has changed. There are a lot more families now that are a lot more accepting and understanding of people's ways. You see that in certain documentaries or, you know, certain articles, YouTube channels and all of that shenanigan. You see people that have been accepted by their family, which is great. I mean, I'm a prime example of it. Yeah. But then you have moments where still the vast majority, like I'm talking like in the high 90s, still can't
fathom it.
Yeah, and still can't tell their parents that they're not the way that they think they should be. Like, do you know what I mean? Or like they're not going to do things traditionally. It's just not going to work out.
Yeah. I feel like attitudes towards, I think gay people in general have softened, even in my lifetime.
Yeah, for sure.
Short, like 26 years. I think in a weird way, whereas most other cultures have been more accepting of like lesbians, I actually think it's the other way around. I think people are more accepting of gay men than like lesbian women.
Yeah.
In our community. So I think there is a long way, and trans, I think it's completely just like,
I think that's
zero.
Yeah, I think that at the moment for everybody is just something completely different, because culturally their knowledge and their predisposed knowledge of like what it means to be trans is the hijra community or is a eunuch. So that's what they would imagine immediately if you were to be like, I want to, you know, change my sex, or this is now how I view myself. I mean, you don't have to necessarily change your sex to be a trans person, obviously, like it's just about how you identify, but it's literally, that's just something completely different and unfathomable. I have a friend who comes from a Sikh Punjabi background and wants to be known as they, them. So it's non-binary. And I think that's incredible that their parents do that for them.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh shit! I thought this story was going to take a dark turn.
No, because I mean, there are some moments of it. I mean, they found it very difficult. Obviously, the parents, they wanted to say, "Well, this is our son, and he, him, and his, and whatever else." But when they spoke to their parents about it, I think it's super important, and I think it's so interesting that there are some parents out there that are like, "Yeah, okay, we accept that," because if we are such God-fearing as a community, then you have no right to say anything.
Yeah. And I think in general, I think we're so accepting of most other things.
Yeah, of course.
Do you get what I'm saying? Even if
Yeah.
it doesn't tie in with your cultural or religious beliefs, there's a lot of stuff that you just can't be like, whatever.
Yeah.
Like for people that can move from one culture all the way to this different culture that's like uber liberal and all of that shit, that's like almost the exact opposite, and thrive. Like surely like they them's like not that big of a step.
Yeah, like you absolutely have to like adapt to your surroundings, otherwise you're just gonna get encapsulated by it and you're just gonna get suffocated. And I'm glad that our generation is now opening that up, and we're open enough to have those conversations with our parents and the elder generations that we have. I think it's super important.
And you only need like a few people within like a certain community to open up to that and be like, look, okay, fine, we're going to live with it, and kind of almost set an example.
Yeah.
It's kind of I almost tally it to like divorce. Do you remember like how divorce was such a
Divorce
taboo?
used to be such a terrible thing.
Yeah, whereas now everybody's like, oh, their relationship didn't work out, their marriage didn't work out.
And now we're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, like, oh shit, it happens.
Then you get put back on the list and all
yeah.
that shenanigans. Yeah.
What is dating like? Being a gay South Asian? Are you in a relationship?
No.
No.
No, I'm not. Available, I am. I'm 5'10", 27. No, I am.
Your DMs are going to be fire.
I really hope they are, because it's been a cold winter. No, no, I'm not seeing anyone. I think for me, growing up, I was very influenced by like Disney films and like Bollywood in general. So it messed me up totally to think that, oh, I'm just going to find someone like randomly. Like I'll go dog walking and, you know, our dogs will get entangled in their leads and I'll go, oh God, I'm so sorry, she never does this. And then all of a sudden the dogs fall in love and we fall in love. But yeah, so...
And you're just sucking dick behind a bush.
Yeah, exactly. Tie them up to a lamppost and away I go. And also the dogs are somewhere else. But yeah, so I think it's, you know, dating is very difficult for me because I'm so alone. Yeah, it's just, no, I think it was just really difficult. I think in the beginning, people used to see me as this more feminine counterpart. A lot of people still do, but I mean, people used to, because I had like no beard, I had short hair, I had like, you know, long eyelashes and that whole thing. I looked like my mother. I have her beard. So, and yeah, and it was really interesting to see how men reacted to that. And I would get these sort of like hyper masculine men or guys that were straight loved me. Right. Yeah, okay. They loved it. They were like, you're like really feminine, but like you're a guy. So like I was like the Hannah Montana of Grindr. Yeah. And everybody loved that. And it was like really interesting. So I used to flirt a lot with like straight guys.
Right.
Bisexual men loved me. And it was like really interesting. And for a while I kind of like assumed like that was who I was and that was my identity and that's what I was always going to get. But yeah, I don't know. I think it got more interesting as I've gotten older, because I've now become so comfortable within myself that I'm just like, this is what you're gonna get. Like, right. Some days I might feel like dressing up a little bit, but I mean, I don't. On a day to day, I tend to just wear like tracksuits and like trainers, and like my hair's always up and stuff like that. Like I'm not wearing makeup all the time, or I'm not got nails on or eyelashes, and I think that's what people assume whenever they see me or like see me perform or like see me on stage and stuff. They just think, oh, well, she's a queen 100%. Do you know how exhausting it is to put eyelashes on and eyeliner and concealer and all of... You think I've got time to be waking up all of that time just so you can see me look? God forbid. The first 2 dates, maybe. The second after that, you're lucky if I cream my face. I really can't be bothered. I'm so lazy. I'll only ever put face on for a check, highest of keys. Like, I can't be asked. And I think that's what people kind of forget. They always like go, oh yeah, oh, I just want you to like, you know, be like this and be like this. And I had so many guys. I've had some really weird experiences.
Go on. Hey, fuck it.
Fine, I love this. Okay, so, yeah. So
they're
dating
high
apps,
on my agenda for this podcast.
Yeah, okay. So dating apps suck unless anyone wants to sponsor me. But I've had guys that have wanted me to dress up constantly. Yeah, trust. I've had guys that have wanted me always to just be a woman around them. I've had guys that have asked me for pictures of like my feet, my hands. I have very pretty hands. One gentleman asked me for pictures of my hands once. That was interesting. I've had many men, good song. I've had many men want to ship me abroad to be their escort for like a weekend. I had a man offer to take me to Australia. Now listen, this was something that I was actually going to do. And my mother was like, why don't you just do it? And I was like, why are you telling me to do things? But my mother was like, I want to live vicariously through you. And I was like, okay. Yeah.
I mean, hey man, if your mum wants to go to Australia, like, you know, if she's got that MILF thing going on, we'll sort it out.
Listen, my mother's gorgeous. If anyone
Team Samosa chats trip.
Very that. But like, yeah, no, because it used to happen to my mother, and I laugh about this all the time because it used to happen to her as she was growing up a lot. She would attract so much attention,
right? And
she was like, "Yeah, well, you get that from me. You know what mums are like. Whenever you do something, like, well, it's mine, my genes." And I'm like, "Yeah, actually, probably is because like I do." As I got older as well, my body shape was very feminine, and that I found very interesting. So I think that's what also made me feel very like hyper feminine and like, you know, that intersectionality throughout it all.
Yeah.
I once had a gentleman. Oh my God.
Wait. What happened with the Australia trip?
Oh, I didn't go. Go. He was also really old. And like, he wasn't like a daddy type. Like, it wasn't even like you looked at him and kind of thought, do you know what I mean? Like a silver fox. But like, you kind of looked at him and went, ooh, life support. Like, it was like, he was old. And he might have died on the flight, and I wasn't ready for that commitment. But happy for assets. But yeah, so I don't know. But I had this one gentleman approach me whilst I was at work once in my early 20s, and he was looking. So when I used to work at Body Shop, and he was looking for like skincare products or whatever, and then he was like, "Oh, I have a son about your age," and I think I was like 21, 22. He was like, "I've got a son about your age." I was like, "Oh, do you?" And he was like, "Yeah." He goes, "Oh, where are you from? You're like really pretty and really beautiful." And I was like, "Oh, okay." But I just used that to my advantage and like sold him more products because we had Target to hit and whatever. And then he was just like, "Oh, okay, it's really nice to see you." My man came back the next day and the day after looking for me. Then when I was back again, he was like, "Oh, you're here." He walked in with his wife.
Oh,
that's right. Shit. He walked in with his wife, and then she came and he came over to me, both of them, and she went, so this is the boy.
Oh my God, you were about to get into a get out
and
situation.
I was like, the fuck is going on? Yeah, trust.
So what was the sex like?
I wouldn't know. I'm still a virgin. So that's the thing. Being a 27-year-old gay virgin is always
What, for real?
Oh yeah, I'm being serious.
Oh shit!
Yeah, I've never had sex.
Holy fuck! Why did you not mention it before? What the hell?
I know.
This is an exclusive. Make sure this is in the trailer.
Can you imagine? This is the tagline.
Generally,
yeah, I'm like the Susan Boyle of the LGBT world. I've never had sex.
Why?
I just never found anyone to have sex with. That's a lie. I've never wanted or felt safe or felt comfortable enough to have sex with the men that I've been with.
Imagine if you're not gay.
That could also be a thing. I could not be gay.
So you're the first time you're about to fuck a booty, you're like, oh,
I'm like, oh God,
I can't do this.
Yeah, I always we laugh about this with me and my friends. Like, if a man like was to come over to me and start grappling me, I'd be like, oh, get off. And you know, like start calling for my mother and stuff, like during sex, like, and not in like a hot way, like, do you know what I mean? But like a way where I'm like, oh, mami, chore, like, do you know what I mean? That sort of vibe, and it's it's really funny. Yeah, no, I've never had sex. And there's loads of guys out there, like there's so many apps and stuff like that you can go around and have sex with people, right? Like I could leave here and like suck a dick, like, but that's not who I am.
I like how you have to assume you have to leave here to suck a dick. You just gotta say the word.
Oh.
There is genuine fucking fear there.
I don't know. I mean, you looked at me dead in the eye. I don't know if that's an invitation.
Oh, hey man, we'll take this off air. My family's gonna be watching this.
Thank God. Finally found myself a Punjabi guy. But yeah, no, they're difficult as well. Fucking hell, let's not talk about Punjabi guys. They're the worst.
That was gonna be my next question. Finish your story off.
Okay, yeah, no, it was. I can't even remember what I was saying. So I think it just got to a point where I was like, I don't feel comfortable to have sex with these guys. And then the guys that I did feel comfortable to take things to the next level, they were the ones that were like, bless you, they were the ones that were like, I don't know, I've got a lot going on, and I've got a lot of issues, and I was like, you're such a dickhead. I was like, do you know what, leave. I was like, the door is that way. I was like, just get out. I was like, I'm just so done with this. So yeah, then it just got to a point where I was like, oh, I'm 27. Cool. That's fun.
Have you ever had sex with
Pent
a woman?
up? No, I've never had sex, period.
Oh Jesus, man! Let's go on a night out. We're gonna find you some dick.
Oh yeah, that would be so much fun.
Let's-
I can't do things casual. I don't know. I think even though I have this like stage persona or like, you know, this sort of persona of myself where I am this like very like out there, brutal, like, you know, no bars held, no filter kind of guy, I still can't like. I'm a really good flirt. Like I flirt really well.
Right.
Usually at restaurants because that's the benefit, right? Because they give you more food and shit. But as soon as someone would be like, okay, so did you ask for his number? I would be like, no. And they're like, why not? They were like, the chemistry is so good between the two of you. And I'm just like, no. How do you do that? Like at the moment where I am at work, like, you know, there've been like, so many people that we see like daily, like for these shows and stuff. And as a pantomime dame, you get to flirt with people like outrageously.
Yeah.
And I've been doing that and using it to my advantage. Then someone will go, okay, so you should go and talk to the guy like now, like after show drinks or whatever. And I'll be like, no, I can't do that. And I remember I had to send one of the other cast members out, and he went and spoke to the guy, and he was just like, oh, so you know, you and da, da, da. And then he came back and he was like, yeah, he was straight. And I was like, bullshit, was he straight? I said, but that's fine too. But yeah.
It's ironic that, like, you being a gay guy, like, when it comes to dating, you're a real pussy. This is...
Trust. Gay men are so promiscuous. And I think a lot of the time, all of my experiences with, like, gay men have just been like, ugh, you're so gross. Like I just want to have like genuine conversation, right? And I just want to have like a good time. I want to meet someone that can match my humor, and we can just be crass and crude and whatever. But why does it always have to go sexual? Immediately when they find out you're a dancer, that's what it is. Yeah. Oh, you dance, do you? Oh, would you give me a one-on-one? Oh, would you private dance? And you're like, no. I would not.
That's the wrong response. The right response is how much.
Yeah. Well, I recently did a lap dance, and I was liberated. And I don't, it was so much fun to like explore my sexuality and sensuality on stage. Is something that I do, and I think through dance a lot of the time I'm either portraying love lost or like the tease. Like those are like the two main sources of like emotion that I always go for. And I think it's so interesting, and that's why people never believe me when I tell them that I'm actually single and never had sex. Like they're like, but you just did a whole piece about like taking off your blouse, you know, and doing whatever. Like some of the Bollywood classics that I've done, and like some of like the pieces that I've done, like one of my favorite pieces is Mohe Bangadpe from Mughal Azam, and during that she talks about, don't worry, I'll help you. She talks about being at the riverside and like filling up her bangad, which is her pot, with water, and then he throws a pebble and she's soaked and she becomes see-through. Right. So she's like talking about this whole thing, and I've done that piece, and I've like looked at someone dead in the eye and like pretend to like, you know, douse my like blouse and whatever. And then, but then I always just go home alone. Well, I don't. I go home and eat McDonald's, and then I go home. Yeah.
Go home with the Uber Eats guy.
Yeah, and I'm just like, okay, bye guys. Yeah, and then it's just, yeah, it's really interesting. Like I have very different like personalities. Obviously, like you would know, like, you know, going on stage is something, even though it's still you, it's a heightened version of you, right?
Yeah. With comedy, everybody says that, like, you, even if you're you on stage and you're not doing a character act, it's just an exaggerated version of yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Which presents its problems, because sometimes I come off stage now and it's like, I don't know if it's the guy, whether the guy on the stage is the actual me or whether the guy off the stage is actual me.
Trust, I know. But then I feel like if I was the same person that I was on stage, I would be getting laid right now during this podcast.
That would be a great, there's just a fuck off dude pounding you across the table.
Yeah, I know. And like the mic's going crazy.
Yeah, and I'm just there like, hey Raheem, have you got you're like, 1 minute.
1 second, hang on. And the YouTube video is just like half of it's blurred. And, like, it's just you talking to this blur. You just see these like bodies doing like, visuals. Yeah, that's what I mean. Like it's just one of those things where you're just sort of like, okay, yeah, cool. But that's what I love about performing on stage. Like you get to be somebody. Yeah. Somebody completely different, or like a heightened version of you, and everyone's totally with you for like 5-10 minutes. And then you kind of go off stage and you go,
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's something I've actually experienced fairly recently, especially since I started doing like bigger crowds, like better gigs and stuff.
Getting booked.
Yeah, like the actual like, rather than like me reaching out to people, somebody's like, "Oh, I've got this night, come through," and like you smash it, like after about 10 minutes, then you come off stage and then you're just there and you're just like, "Man, that was amazing."
Yeah.
And it's like, then you're just literally just off stage and the focus is on somebody else and you're like, you bellend.
Yeah, I know.
I should be up there.
I know exactly. Like, this should be my show.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's how I feel when I like host and stuff. But like whenever I dance, I don't know if you ever go through this. Like whenever I dance, I get really bad, like cotton mouth. And my whole mouth just goes, and obviously you can't stop in the middle of a dance, right? Take a sip of water. I mean, as a comedian, you can. But in that moment, like sometimes people are like, "How did that feel?" And I go, "I can't remember."
Because you're only focusing
Because you're
on the
in it so much, and like that's like my only thing is like I get cotton mouth, but then I'm like dancing and I'm like really enjoying myself, and it's almost like an out of body experience. And then you like come off stage and you're a bit like, "Oh," and everyone said that was incredible, and you go, "Thanks." I still don't know how to take a compliment. That's harsh.
Oh, so I kind of learned.
Okay.
I'll just be like, it was good, wasn't it? and then sometimes, but then sometimes it's the other way around.
Yeah.
Where like when you think you've done bad and somebody comes, "Oh, you were really funny, you were like my favorite," or whatever, and then you'll be there like, "Oh, enough of your sarcasm, bitch." Get out of
Yeah.
here."
Do you know what I mean? It's just because you accidentally like bumped into each other at the bar.
Yeah.
And you're like, "Oh, you were really good, man."
Yeah.
I think one thing that I can't say it.
No, fuck it, go on.
No, I can't because I use this all the time, and then if my friends see this, they're going to be like, "You're a fucking bitch." Whenever I watch something or I go and see something that I haven't particularly enjoyed, but haven't got the energy to tell you why,
Right.
I always say to somebody, and I always touch them on their arm, and I always go, "That was so fun."
Oh my word.
I do that all the time. It's really bad. I always go, "You look like you were having so much fun." And I was with you, man. I was with you. And that's what I say.
Do you know, I think the worst thing that somebody's ever said to me, and it happens probably happens once or twice a year, where like you'll choose like the wrong set for a room. Right,
Yeah,
so you'll try and read the room, and you'll be like, "Oh, actually, these jokes will work with these guys," and you fuck it up, and they don't work, and they didn't want like all this stuff. And I did this gig over in Putney, and it was a small room, so we were just at the back of the room. I went on second, I think. I was like, "Okay, cool." The first comedian kind of flopped a bit. I was like, "Okay, cool. We'll up it. We'll go a little bit edgier. These guys should be on board with it." I went on. I did a bunch of stuff about race, and usually it's dating or race are like my two like quote unquote pro sets.
I'm glad you said dating and race.
Yes.
Like, really emphasize that race.
Race.
Yes.
And then so I went on, did my stuff about race, and it went like, it was super shambolic. Some stuff worked, some didn't. By the end of it, I was just glad to get off. And then there was a break, and in the break, this woman came off, and she was like, "Oh, you could tell you were really confident." And I was like, "Oh, I know where this is fucking going, innit?"
Yeah.
And I was like, "Yeah, thanks, yeah, kind of, I think I was like fucked up reading the room, blah, blah, blah." And she came over, she was like, "Yeah, maybe just next time, just don't do any stuff about race. Like, it's a bit played out." And I nearly headbutted the bitch. Like,
You should have chinned her.
Oh, man, that is the worst thing. When somebody comes up to you, and imagine I saw like a dance performance, me being fucking ignorant as fuck, not knowing anything about dance, and I was like, maybe, when you do that step,
Maybe
just
don't.
do it.
Yeah,
just don't do it.
Someone said that to me before.
Oh,
and I
man.
went, "Thank you so much. Thank you."
I never thought of that,
Yeah,
you fucking
thank you
idiot.
so much. Like, I'm in a show at the moment, and I play a very lewd character who has constant like lewd jokes, and it's very crass. It's like very rude, and I say like the C word number of times in the script. And like, it's a lot of fun, and we really enjoy it. But you might have a day where the room is just a bit like,
Yeah.
okay. And then you're like, "Oh shit, they hate me, man." And I said, "They're really gonna hate this next bit then if they hate me now." And it's just so much fun. Like, I had an Asian family in the audience, who absolutely loved it. And me standing there, obviously an Asian male, and I perform as a pantomime dame, but I've kept my beard. And everyone's like, "Wow, and it's like so nice to see Asians in the audience because they actually do accept it." And that's what I was talking, like the point that we were talking about earlier, like they are accepting things.
Yeah, sometimes I think misconceptions can almost become like self-fulfilling prophecies, or even just in our own psyche. Because like I always go to like Muslims whenever I see somebody who's Muslim in the stage where I'm doing like a little bit of crowd work, they say Muslim, I won't like hold back. If I think about something funny, like I remember I asked there was a divorced Muslim guy in the front row, and I remember I asked him just like what happened to the other 3 wives.
Brilliant.
And like, yeah, it was a throwaway thing. Everybody like looked at him. Soon as he laughed, then they went in it. And then during the course of my set, there was like a few Muslim jokes.
That's what I mean. It's just like everything's too PC.
Everything is too PC.
Let's just laugh about things. It's just funny, right?
How do you feel about? Well, that's an absolutely fantastic view. That's my viewpoint as well.
Yeah.
And like, because I don't like filter myself on stage and stuff. People will be like, "Oh, well, what if somebody was joking about this or that?" And I'll be like, if it's
Yeah,
funny.
but as long as it's funny and clever, like if you're going to be telling a joke about like whatever you're telling a joke about, make sure it's funny and it's clever and it lands.
Oh, see,
That's
so
it.
for me, it's literally just the one.
If it's just funny,
that's it. It
no.
encompasses everything
It
else.
needs, yeah, it needs to be, yeah, you need to make me laugh. But I think it's like, if you can't laugh at yourself, then what you laugh, like it takes so much more energy to hate on something than it does to just laugh it off.
And I do think that like workplaces and stuff need to be like sterile from like that kind of stuff. So even when people are like, "Oh, well, it was just a joke," and you're like, "Yeah, but you're at work, dickhead."
Yeah.
But comedy clubs don't need to be like that, or comedy shows or whatever don't need to kind of be like that.
Yeah.
But so your family's quite accepting.
My family's
That's nice.
very accepting.
What was university like? I'm curious because our university was basically like mini Bombay.
Yeah,
like,
it was. I feel like it was when we were there. I don't think it is anymore now.
I haven't been back since.
But university was all right. I knew a lot of, I didn't know a lot of people initially, but I got to know quite a lot of people. And I think my course that I did, everyone was very accepting, like it wasn't a thing. And
what
then
course did you do?
I did English and drama.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So drama's just
the only way you could have got more accepted.
I know. Drama's just a polite way of telling your parents you're gay. So yeah, you kind of expected, and I was like, oh my god, I'm gonna find the love of my life. That didn't happen. But yeah, it was very interesting. And then when I started to go to like society things and like dance events and stuff like that, that's when I noticed that other people had an issue with it. But then I got told by one guy once, he was like, oh, like I think some like overtly like gay people, like they were obviously gay, right? And they were like walking past us or whatever, and I think they were just, I don't know, screaming queens or whatever it was. And he sort of rolled his eyes, and I was like, why did you just roll your eyes? I said, I'm standing right next to you. He goes, yeah, but Raheem, you're not like that, you're not like that gay, you're like a cool gay. And I was like, okay, thanks, guy. I was like, hey, if that gets me accepted by all like the really hot straight guys, I'm very happy about it. But like looking back at it, I was like, that's so problematic. I was like, that is so off. But like, yeah, it was very weird. I think it got to a point where it was like, yeah, I was obviously gay. Like people looked at me and were like, bang, homosexual. But like, when they got to know me, it became a secondary thing. Because for me, my sexuality was never a major thing. I always want people to describe me as something else before they say that I'm gay. Like, I just thought it was so redundant. Do you know what I mean?
That's the start of this podcast, fucked.
Yeah. So I tea. But yeah, but it was just one of those things where I was just like, okay, yeah, but I'm not just gay. Like I do so many, like I'm a funny guy, like I'm cool to be around, like, you know, we all have like a laugh and a joke and whatever. So yeah, but university got better for me, I think, as I got through it. But I was never alone. Like I never felt alone. I never felt upset. I never felt like nobody loved me or anything like that. I felt accepted by my people, and I was finding new people all the time. So yeah, it wasn't actually that bad.
Did you find it easier to be accepted by white people than South Asian people?
Yeah, obviously.
I don't know. I've never been gay, innit?
Well, there's always time. But yeah, it was just one of those things where South Asia just had an innate problem. And it was like, why? It's because their masculinity was getting challenged, because they felt all of a sudden it was like, oh, we have to be more alpha, or we can't joke like we probably do because there's like a gay guy in the room. And like they used to not say things and like not look at me, and like people would not talk to me. And I used to be like you're lucky if I liked you. Like, I don't like you. It's not just because you don't look very nice. It's also because you're an idiot. That's why I don't like you. But it's like little things like that. And it's just sort of, and yeah, I mean, Caucasian people were absolutely fine. I mean, some of them still had issues, but they were a lot more accepting.
Right.
I was a huge part of the ACS at uni, of the Afro-Caribbean Society.
Oh, shit, really?
Yeah. And that was so much fun because you used to like go in there and like not really see anything, but then when they used to see that you could like dance and you were like with the culture and like you knew what you were doing and like all that sort of stuff, and then they got to know you. I mean, I knew all of the committees, all the presidents, all of like, and that sort of stuff. But that's one thing that I hated about university, is that my sexuality was fine when I had clout.
Right, yeah.
So then when I became known for like dance and like choreographing and, you know, and they would see me talking to the right people, then it was sort of like, now this guy's like, oh yeah, like what are you saying? And I was like, you don't even know my name.
Right,
That's so out of order.
Chasers.
Yeah, hella. And I think that's how a lot of people like got through it. And then you kind of just think, okay. But then it did almost help as well, because then sexuality didn't become a thing. Then it was just based on your person, which it is a bit of a catch-22, but it's just a bit of a shit way to like get to that stage, you know?
Yeah, I feel you. Because when I think about like why was I a homophobe, no idea. I can't explain it. I can't explain why. And the only explanation I can come up with is because you're conditioned that way.
Yeah, we are.
Because it's like like I said, I never had like any contact with gay people. I watched like Brokeback Mountain and like
I love that film.
I was
so
like fine
much.
with it. And then I was
Did you
like,
cry?
no, I ain't gay.
Brilliant. Oh my god, I bawled my eyes out. My eldest brother watched it as well. He cried. He's not gay
Yet.
I hope not. There's only room for one of us. There's too many of us, and someone needs to give them grandchildren.
Do you like look up to like other? Because I look up to like other, like South Asian like comedians and shit.
Yeah.
Do you look up to like other gays?
Yeah. Constantly, dude, when I'm on my knees.
We've been over this. You're fucking virgin.
Yeah.
No, but
there are some like there are some South Asians in the LGBT community that I think are super interesting and super inspiring for what they do.
Yeah.
And I think that I'm blessed enough, like, for some of them to actually be my friends. So that's really nice as well, because I look at them and I go, that's so cool that you're, like, doing this, and, like, that you're so open and out there. And, you know, it's just so important for us to constantly, like we were speaking earlier about, like, to build people up.
Yeah.
And to, like, understand why people are doing what they're doing. But yeah, there are a few that I like sort of look at and go, yeah, that's incredible. It's just a shame that there aren't that many out there.
Yeah.
That we know of.
Yeah, no, I fully agree with you there, because I was reading up about the Irish Prime Minister. You know, he's like he's half Indian and stuff. I was reading through his life and how he like kind of struggled with it and stuff. But then you read these people's stories and you kind of understand that, oh, cool, it's not just about, oh, I want to be able to kiss in public and like, no, it's like I want to be accepted for who I am.
Yeah, like,
and I think that was what actually drove the nail like home for me. The idea that it's not even just about that; it's about like actually feeling like you belong.
It's about feeling, a sense of community, a sense of unity, but also just feeling safe in every space that you're in.
Yeah.
And sometimes those trivial things of like you know, a heterosexual couple joking around with each other, or like, you know, they might play fight or something, or, you know, and they have those little moments where they might link their arms, or she might just leave her hand a little bit closer to his, like the community that I'm part of, we can't do that without somebody going like that. Do you know what I mean? So that's why I believe in equal opportunity.
Do you reckon that affects like relationships in general, just like within your community?
Yeah. Because, like, I would love the idea of one day having children in front of me, I don't know, running or whatever, and me being beside my partner, if my hands are in his pocket, or, you know, or if I want to link arms. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of PDA anyway, it doesn't matter who you are, but, like, you know, when you get old and stuff, you need help. Like, I don't mind, like, you know, like getting his support. So like it's one of those things, like that idea to me is like so normal, but then describing that to somebody else, you're a bit like, yeah, but you can do, no, I can't do that. You can do that. Like, how many couples do I have to like openly say ugh to on the train just so they stop touching each other? Do you know what I mean? I mean, I never want to be that couple, but I want to have the opportunity to be that couple. And I think that's why like the Irish Prime Minister is doing a great thing about it, because it is one of those things where you just want to feel like I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm not shoving it in your face. Do you know what I mean? But I am here.
Like, you're just like being yourself.
Yeah. And this is what I mean, like embracing your authentic self and not feeling judged for it.
Yeah. That's a poetic note.
Thanks.
I feel like that's a poetic note that we can end on. Is there one last question? What advice would you give to like parents of like LGBT kids or like the LGBT kids themselves? Bam! We ended on a
to the
serious
children,
note.
I would say
The first piece of advice would definitely be no grinder.
oh God, don't go on Grindr. What an absolute colossal waste of time that is.
Try Dill Mill instead.
Yeah, singlemuslim.com. Works for me like a charm. No, I would say to the children to understand who you are and know that it's not your fault. It's not anybody's fault. Nobody ever chooses who they are. People are born the way that they are. People are born heterosexual. People are born homosexual, bisexual, whatever type of sexual you are. You're born that way. No one ever finds you and asks you to fill a form out, and you don't ever like check a box. Do you know what I mean? To say I'd be straight. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, no one does shit like that. So for anyone that is worrying about like, why am I like this? Why are you like this? Because you are like that. If you believe in a higher being, it's because that higher being has made you like this, because they know that you can handle it. They know that you're blessed enough to be in a situation where you are that strength, that pillar, that person. You can do it. Don't ever run away from who you are, because that's like the worst thing that you can do. Learn about your community, learn about things that you like or dislike about the community. If you want to explore things, both platonically, sexually, whatever, then do it. Just be safe, but by all means be educated, because there's one thing that we can't stand, and that's stupidity and ignorance. Be educated in your community and understand who you are and where you are. And I think for parents, kind of the same thing, like educate yourself. Know that your child is probably going through hell trying to like I mean, if I asked you, when did you tell your parents that you were straight? Exactly. Like, it shouldn't be a thing that becomes something. Like, if your child identifies as something else aside from heterosexual, be there for them. Know that it's a really difficult ride for them, not only at home, but now in their professional spaces, at school, colleges, universities, whatever. Like, they could be going through a lot that you don't see, and then at home they're just going to shut off. Like, talk to your children. That's the only thing that I can ever say, is just talk. Like, my mother and father spoke to me. My mother told me that I was gay, which was hilarious. You know, and it was just one of those things where I never had this sob story coming out, like, whole thing. Like, my mother and I were just having a conversation while she was getting ready for an event, and it was as trivial as that. And she was like, yeah, it's cool. Do you know what I mean? I used to dance to like the most nonsense songs. I used to grab the nearest junni and I used to like do the whole thing, right? And my mother actually tells me a story about her best friend who's from Grenada. And she turned around to her and she said, Rahim's gay, right? Like, he's probably gay. And this is when I was like really young, right? Right. And then she was like, yeah, I know. And we'll just wait for him to tell us. It's cool. Like, I'm blessed enough to have had a mother and father like that, you know, and to be able to say that my grandmother has given me her actual jewelry to wear on stage as a woman. Like, I'm blessed to say that I have this family, and I never, ever will ever take them for granted. But there are people out there that don't. But it's up to the parents, right? And like older siblings, aunts and uncles that go, yeah, but you're still the same person. Do you know what I mean? Even if I were straight, I still wouldn't talk to my mother and father about sex or anything like that. But we'd still have the same conversations, right? And like, I will be telling my mother that I'm pregnant, and I will be doing the whole thing, and I will have children, and I will do the whole thing. I just don't want to do it with a woman. And that's all it is. And I think the soon as parents understand that you haven't lost a child, you haven't lost your title as grandparent or as uncle or aunt, you know, and whatever else have you, they're just not doing it the conventional, way.
Yeah.
They're just going to do it in their own way. And that's also totally fine as long as they're a good person. And that's what they need to remember.
Excellent. Well, thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
I really appreciate it. Genuinely, I had a whale of a time.
I had a great time.
Yes. We will definitely have you back on, hopefully after you've lost your virginity.
Yes.
Raheem.
Oh my God. That'll be a special. I'll have t-shirt and merch by then. Yeah, I'm very excited. Can't wait. If anybody wants to help, contact at Samosa Chat, at Raheem Mir also. But I don't just give it out for free. Not that I want it to be paid for. That's weird. I'm not going to put it on eBay. But what I will be expecting is at least dinner.
Or a trip to Australia.
Yeah, holidays. You know,
we'll definitely get you that booty.
Yeah, don't want to be a mistress anymore. Not that I've ever have been, but I think as a Gothic dancer, you kind of like get into that courtesan mentality. But anyway, carry on. Sorry,
no, that's absolutely great. So this has been Raheem. His links and description will be in the description below. So check him out.
That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.